everybody! Welcome to my first video of 2024. We are all going to wish each other good luck and jump right in. I am a January baby and I love the winter and the snow. I know, don't come for me. But I chose these blue chalcedony because they remind me of the glacial water. And here's a sneak peek of our project for next week. The materials that I used today for this project were some ear wires, obviously. I've also got about 4 inches of 20 gauge sterling silver. This is dead soft wire. And I also have about 4 inches, or it was 4 inches when I cut it, of dead soft fine silver. And I did go ahead and torch the ends there, and I've got a video down in the description on how to do that. These chalcedony drops I've had for a very long time, and the little beads are 4mm jade, dyed jade. The chalcedony drops I think are about a 10 by 7-ish size. I'm also using 28 gauge sterling silver dead soft wire, but if you had 26 gauge, I would prefer 26 gauge, but I don't have that right now. I'm going to be using my jaw nose pliers, my round nose pliers, my chain nosed pliers, and of course our wire cutters. I will also have some links to tools down in the description area. I have Amazon affiliate now, so you don't have to shop through any of my links, but if you do, I really do appreciate it because any of that little amount kicks back to my shop. I'm using a ring mandrel today for a round shape, and of course a hammer. I'm using the ball peen because we will be using the rounded end to add some texture, and of course you need your bench block. Mine's old and well loved, but it still works really well. And of course we need our caffeine source. To start with, I'm going to be taking our ring mandrel and our 4 to 4.5 inches of 20 gauge sterling silver. I'm going to line them up on the edge, and I'm going to make a 90-degree bend about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches down from the end. I really just kind of eyeball this. I'm imagining, a bead hanging from it and room for a few loops, and then of course I'm going to wrap it to put it on the ear wire. But I'm not sure why I separated these two, to be honest. It was just much easier to put them on together, but I felt like making it hard for myself, so I made these separately, and then I had to finagle them to make them the same size. But I would recommend just doing them both together at the same time. Wrap them around the mandrel at the same time on the same size. That'll make it a lot easier for you. I'm going to use my fingers to make a quick wrap there around that stem, if we want to call that. And then I'm going to secure it in my left hand with my chain nose pliers, or my jaw nose pliers, and then make a little wrapped loop. If you need to see a better video of a wrapped loop, I do have a link in the description box that will take you to one of my older videos where I show up close on how to make a wrapped loop. I'm just going to trim off the excess here with our wire cutters and use my chain nose pliers to tuck it in nice and tight. That way there's no scratchy bits. I am going to put it back on the ring mandrel, and I'm going to push with my fingers. You can also use your hammer a little bit gently, but I'm trying to give it a re-rounded shape. I kind of bent it a little bit while I was working with it. And now you're going to make a second one just like it. Like I said, it was easier to put them on together at the same time. I recommend that, but I like making things difficult for myself, apparently. We are going to be hammering the circle very gently. Keep this little wrapped loop off of the edge there. That way if you accidentally hit it with the hammer, it won't flatten it. But I'm just hardening it, flattening it a little bit. That way when we use the ball end of our ball peen hammer, we can really hammer and give it some good texture. Hope you guys can see a little bit of the texture. It's hard to see in this lighting, but once it's all the way hammered all the way around and you're really happy with your results, Make sure you do them both, obviously, and this is both of mine finished. I felt like it wasn't perfectly rounded the way I wanted it to be, so I did put it on the ring mandrel again, and I just kind of like forced it down the ring mandrel and shaped it a little bit. That way it was just a little bit more round. Now I've got our 4 inches of decorative wire, the ones we're going to do all the little loopies and swoopies with. These are 20 gauge fine silver, and I'm just going to bend them together to try to find the end. I don't try to make them perfect, but you can certainly measure it and mark it with a Sharpie marker if you'd like to. Once I have found the center that I am happy with, I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to bend the two evenly on the side. I'm just making a little loop that we're going to hang the bead from in the middle. Repeat for the other side and make sure that they line up as evenly as you can get them. These ones came out almost perfect. You can see that I'm centering our little decorative wire underneath the top center of our earring, and I'm going to hold it very firmly with my thumb so that I can bend the other side. I'm actually bending it behind and then through the center towards the front. I'm going to use my finger as a fulcrum and I'm going to curl that, loop that around, and again bring it down behind. I'm tightening up that loop with my round nose pliers because I wanted it to be a little closer and a little tighter on the main wire. I'm making sure that it's still centered. And now I'm switching hands and I'm going to again hold that very firmly because it's still loose. And wrap that wire around the back, bring it through the middle to the front. And then gently make a loop. I keep checking both sides to make sure that I'm as symmetrical as I can get. You can see that it moves around if you don't hold it firmly. And now I'm going to tighten it up a little bit with my round nose pliers to make it symmetrical. I'm going to bring that wire around and through to the front, just like I did with the other one. Looks like a little heart. It's so cute. Now I'm going to be making a larger loop with this wire around the first loop that we made, and then bring it back around from behind and tuck it up to the front. I have just enough in the front with our little decorative ball that I'm going to bend it upwards and kind of curl it a little bit. Just make a little curl. It kind of appears that I struggled with this, and I kind of was, but only because I was trying to do it in front of the camera, like 1.5 feet away from my face. And I normally do these up close where I can see details. But here I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. I got it around to the front, and now I'm just gonna curl it a little bit with the chain nose pliers. You can see once we've actually got the whole curl done and secured, it doesn't really move much. I'm not having to hold it as tightly. Like you can see, I'm not even using it all. But I'm repeating the same as I did on the other side. I'm going to make that larger loop and then bring the end around to the front. And then we're going to curl it upward and tighten it down to secure it. You get a much better view from this side, I think, than from the other side. Because I'm working towards the camera, you guys can see it a little bit better. You see I'm just pinching it down to make sure that it's nice and tight so that it's not going to wiggle around on us. You can go ahead and center and secure all the little loopies that you like. I noticed that I had bent the bottom area. There you go. See, I'm just pinching it back. And once you're happy with it, repeat on the other earring. You can see how I've added the chalcedony drop here with a wrapped loop. So I'm just going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to use the 28 gauge. I cut about 6 to 8 inches. Again, if you have 26 gauge, I think that would be better suited for this project. But all I have at the moment is 28 gauge. I put it through just enough so that I could bend it up at the top and then wrap it around that long center one. I'm going to bend it up at a 90-degree angle here, or I guess it's a 45-degree angle. Any math experts out there can let me know in the comments. But once we've got it bent, you can see here how I do it. Then I've got the short little wire there that I can wrap around a few times to secure it. I always hold the pliers with my left hand because I am usually right-handed, but whichever hand is easier for you. And then just wrap that little wire around. My camera keeps having trouble focusing, so I'm hoping you guys can see this. I think I'm going to get a different background. I think that the towel that I have in the background is what's causing it to have problems. But I have a friend who is a seamstress, and she and I are going to have some really cool fabric backgrounds soon. Once you've wrapped it around 2 or 3 times and you're happy with it, just clip off that extra little taily bit there. And I'm going to secure it with my chain nose pliers. Now's the part where we get to make our loop. I'm going to hold the wrapped area with the chain nose pliers, and I'm going to bend the top long wire 90 degrees. And then we're going to switch to our round nose pliers, and we're going to make a wrapped loop. But don't wrap it yet, because we got to put it around the decorative wire on the earrings first. So just make the loop first. I always do the top and then switch to the bottom so that I can bring that the rest of the way around and make it a full loop. And then we stick our little tail on. This is fun because I usually make the loops tight, and I kind of have to open it up with my thumb a little bit so that I can get it to fit through that 20 gauge. But once you play around with it, you'll get it. Now that it's on, I'm actually going to use my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to grab the loop at the bottom near the 20 gauge wire. There, just like that. Now I'm holding it securely. Made sure I've got the entire loop, both sides of it. That way it's not going to tighten up on one side or the other. It's not going to shrink the loop if I pull on it. And you can take that main wire and start to wrap it around. It's kind of difficult not to do this in front of my face, but I think you guys will have an easier time of it than I did. But we're just going to take our long wire and we're going to wrap it down what we've already wrapped, and then down over the stone. Here at this point is where you're getting like onto the stone, and sometimes they kind of want to swing around and move around, and it does get a little bit more difficult, but you can just try to like hold it firmly with your thumb while you wrap around. I'm trying to make sure that the depth of the wraps, like the amount of wraps going down, is about the same before I wrap it back up and secure it at the top of the loop. I'm pulling it tight to make sure that it's nice and snug. because I don't want them to be too loose, they'll move around. Once you've reached the top and you've found a little space where you can tuck in that tail wire, you're going to go ahead and cut it short and then use your chain nose pliers, and we are going to tuck them in. Now, because we used 28 gauge, you can see that it did bend a little bit. It's a very fine gauge wire and it is prone to bending, so I'm just using my thumb and finger to just kind of bend it back nice and straight the way that I want it to hang. Now we're going to be adding our little 4mm jade bead. I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers. We're going to make sure that we give ourselves enough space to wrap some loops and bend that 20 gauge at a 90-degree angle. Take your round nose pliers and make a loop. I always hold the loop with the chain nose pliers and then use the jaw nose pliers to hold or pull that firm 20 gauge. Even though it's dead soft, it's still stiffer, much stiffer than the finer gauges of 26 and 28. I'm just going to wrap that loop until it's nice and snug against the bead and cut it as short as I can, and then tuck down any ends with the chain nose pliers. The loop kept trying to twist on me, so I had to twist it back. Last thing you need to do is add your ear wires. When you're all done adding your ear wires and you guys want to toss it into the jewelry tumbler, if you guys have one, it helps to burnish it a little bit and gives it a nice polish. If you want to see a video on that, I will leave a link down in the description. You can see the difference of how shiny they are. The last thing that I did was add a liver of sulfur patina, and you can see it darkens it up, and then I polish the highlights. And here they are, all finished. I hope you guys have really enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next week.